Mr. Tang, are you online? Hello?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Pleasure
We're
to
happy
be online, and also very pleased to be called a celebrity. I think it is first time in my life to be celebrity. I think what I would like to say for the beginning is something what Victor Shora said in his introduction, that digital has indeed been one of the symbols of Ukraine resilience. And while the whole world is admiring Ukraine for its bravery, digital has definitely played a very important part in this, with all the digital applications running in the most challenging times of the war, and also the efforts that have been made by Ukrainian government and authorities like telecom regulator as well. I would like to make a couple of points. First, I would like to reiterate this very fact that Lilia mentioned, that Ukraine has become the candidate country last year, and also the fact that our leaders have very clearly stated that Ukraine will become the member of the European Union. And this fact itself has changed our relations, and our relations also in the digital area. You are probably aware that as a part of the process of Ukraine becoming the candidate country, we issued the so-called analytical report. It was presented to the president of Ukraine in February. And this analytical report also had quite thorough assessment of the digital sector. Lilia mentioned that we assessed Ukraine to be moderately prepared for the EU digital single market. I should also add here that this assessment was done jointly for the digital bulk, but also for the media sector. And I think that everyone who reads that analytical report understands that actually digital sector is more advanced than the audiovisual policy area. Now, I would probably like to also make a little quote to this report, where we said that Ukraine is well advanced in providing digital services to its people and businesses, and using information society tools to make public administration more transparent and efficient. The report also says that Ukraine's legislative framework is broadly in line with the EU acquis, in particular with the European Electronic Communications Code, and that work is ongoing to ensure full independence of the regulator following entering into force of the law instrumental establishing the regulatory independence. So in conclusion, it recognizes all the efforts that Ukraine has made, and also encourages to continue this important work. Now, I would like to mention the fact that we are now in the process of launching a somewhat larger exercise of preparing the enlargement report of this year. It will be issued in October, and this report will have a more detailed overview of where Ukraine stands in taking over the European Union digital acquis. And of course, Ukraine's authorities are also contributing to this process. And then part of this report will also be the proposal for the possible next steps on Ukraine's integration into the EU. Now, the second point, what I would like to mention is the implementation of the EU-Ukraine Association Agreement. this is a very unique and very advanced agreement when it comes to the integration of Ukraine into the EU, and particularly in the area of telecommunications. It provides, in the case Ukraine aligns itself with the EU legislation in telecommunication area, an opportunity to benefit from the internal market treatment. And we are currently working on this in different directions. This was also something that was highlighted as a priority during the European Commission College and government meeting in February, which was an unprecedented declaration of our joint work in different areas, including digital. What I consider the most promising areas in this regard are, of course, roaming. Deputy Director General of DigiConnect already mentioned that and said that we are on a good track to go beyond the current voluntary agreement between the telecom operators. The formal process from our side has nearly been completed, and then it will be basically on the Ukrainian side to align itself fully with the EU roaming regulation. And of course, from our side, I can assure that we would try to support you on this as much as possible. The other area, potentially very interesting, is related to the electronic trust services. Ukraine's parliament has adopted the legislation in this regard and has asked the Commission's assessment, how does this correspond to the EU ADAS regulation, and we are in the process of looking into this and seeing how this assessment can be provided the fastest and easiest way. Of course, taking into account that the assessment has to be thorough. And then what I would also say is important in terms of the support is the effort to include Ukraine into the Connecting Europe facility. This is something that was also committed and agreed from our side during the college to government meeting, and the plan to do it by the end of the year, so that Ukraine would have a associated status the same way as Ukraine has this for the Digital Europe program. I would like to say also a few words on our support. Lilia mentioned the digital policy support, which also is contributing to the organization of this conference. But then I should highlight also the fact that after the Russian war against Ukraine started in February, we have stepped up our support on resilient digital transformation more broadly, but also digital services in a more narrow way, and we have mobilized, for example, nearly 11 million euros to support the software and equipment to the government and authorities, main authorities, including the telecom regulator. And then we have made another contribution to the digital transformation of 19 million euros, which includes support to the electronic services, registries, and also the cyber security. On the support, of course, we are fully aware that Ukraine has huge reconstruction needs. In some areas, this will take years to build back where Ukraine were, and of course our intention is to support Ukraine in building back better. We are working together with Ukraine in the steering committee of the multi-agency donor coordination platform. We are co-chairing this together with our US Ukrainian partners. And this is basically a body where Ukraine is advised to come up with the priority needs, which then will be discussed with partners, also with the objective to close the gaps on financing. And of course, it is not only about digital, but it's also about other areas. I think I stop here. I'm sorry if I was a bit longer. I also hope that next time I can participate in this event in a physical form. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Tang.